Greetings, everyone. I would like to ask you to greet the person next to you. And after you finish greeting the next person sitting next to you, I would like you to actually keep your first impression of them until the end of the talk. So, I actually have a question for all of you to answer me honestly. So, I would like to ask all of you to please raise your hand if you have judged someone based on your first impression of them. Wow, that's a lot. You have let your first impression dictate how you interact with other people. You have felt judged by others based on their first impression of you. These things happen to me a lot actually. Maybe it's more than a lot of other people in this room or even out there. It is partly because of my Asperger syndrome. For me, Asperger's is actually something like an invisible disability. It is part of the autism spectrum disorder. So if I simplify it, it would be like God has given me almost everything except my social skills. You can see these faces, right? Most of you will be able to recognize them and know what they feel. But for me, it's very difficult. Jokes and sarcasm has never registered well to me. I tend to take them literally. And this, on top of my social skills, it makes it so hard for me to go to schools with normal children. And during my secondary school in Thailand, I was physically and verbally abused by some of my classmates. It was serious enough that my parents have to call the police. This is all based on their judgments of who I am and what they see in the outside. I was so angry with what they did to me, but one thing I did was that let it go and actually become the best person who I can be. So, in 2007, I was very fortunate to have received a full scholarship to attend United College in Norway. It is a group of 13 schools that uses education as a force to unite nations, cultures, and people together for peace and sustainable future. One of the things I realized when I first get there, after 14 hours flying to Bergen, 3 hours getting on a ferry, and an hour on a bus, just talking about it already makes me exhausted. But when I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was a beautiful fjord and a mountain in the middle of nowhere. And then there were groups of second-year students with a sign holding our name and actually greet us, telling us, welcome to our school, giving us hugs and helping us with our baggage. Although it was extremely overwhelming for me, but it was also amazing. For the record, in my lifetime, that was the time I was hugged the most. So, after going there, one of the most difficult things was living with 4 total strangers. They are from the United States, Wales, Israel, and Ecuador. We are so different in personalities. We have our own identities, but there's 2 things that actually keeps us together, was respect and tolerance in our differences. Those things makes things so much easier for me to live there. In terms of classes, can you just imagine yourself being in class with people from different socioeconomic status, coming from different nations, and even have different abilities? Abilities in my talk means people are blind. I have a friend who actually is cerebral paraplegic, and still we are able to discuss things that are so sensitive, like Israeli-Palestinian conflict, to how great my Thai cooking was, that enough that it was going to burn the house down. I came close. So, actually, these things are great, right? But actually, there are things that was more important to me at that time was my journey to find myself about my Asperger's. I've always questioned myself, why me? Why am I so different? Why don't I have any friends? Why people have to pity me all the time for who I am? I have always asked those questions, but I could never ask it in Thailand because the stigma people have with people with mental health issues and disabilities are so big that I was so afraid to ask those questions, so I left it unanswered. However, I went to a school where everyone's inclusive, supportive, and was ready to help. So one day, I actually grab it by the balls and actually go and ask my nurse at school, telling her the crazy story about my life. Guess what happened? She actually believed in it. I was shocked that she did what she did. So after a year of therapy and psychological validation, it actually happened to be that I actually have Asperger's. When I first found out that I have Asperger's, I was so afraid to tell anyone about it because I don't know how they're going to receive it. But because I believe in my community and the people around me, I decided to tell them the truth. The reactions were just, it's okay. We know you are a unique individual. You're not anything different from any of us. One of the questions they actually added into that conversation was, how can we help you to make things easier for you to live here with us? This question is being asked to me, which was the question I actually always wanted people to ask me so they can help me. I am pretty lucky. But there are people around the world who are not as lucky as I am. According to the World Health Organization, there's about 1 million people who actually suffer from some form of disabilities. In many countries, people with disabilities are considered to be useless. People who are not contributing to society. People who are being exploited every day, as you see outside everywhere here in Bangkok, or even beyond. These people are actually being discriminated as well, just because they lost a limb. Do you think they deserve to actually be treated this way? Even though, according to the human rights, we all have the same rights. For me, to say this, it definitely is a hypocritical thing to say. Because I, myself, was so guilty of doing this before I went to Norway. When I saw someone who was begging on the streets, blind, with a cup, one of the things I do was this mentality. Oh, you poor thing, here's some money, I hope it helps. I'm sure some of you have done that. But one of the things I have also seen was that people were walking away with disgust and trying not to harass. I'm not sure why that happens. Maybe because they think it's human trafficking or supporting those people we don't know where the money is going to. But in the end, I asked the question why and kept it right there. However, my perspective kind of changed about people with disabilities when I joined a program called Lasky RCN, a Bias Awareness Program, which is a program of students from my school with 14 other visually impaired students from Lasky School of Blind in Poland, coming for a 1-week visit to spread the awareness of how it is to be blind. These people were my classmates. They were my 5th roommates. They did activities with us. One of the things I did, I took an initiative while I was there, was actually hosting a Songkran festival at my swimming pool. And we played games, and we also danced Gai Yang to Khao with them, even though they don't really understand what they were doing, but they were having fun. But actually, one of the things that you can see in this picture on the right, my right, is that I'm actually being hauled into the pool by 2 blind people. That made me realize 2 things. I'm terrified by being touched by strangers. 2, it was also because that they were blind. I didn't trust them. Whether they're gonna drop me in the pool or they're gonna drop me on the floor. That was when I was 17. This happened, right? I was terrified to, oh my God, period. But then, after it all happened, one thing that struck my core that they told me was that we want you to have fun too. You have done a lot for us. You know what? After being so terrified, shaken up, when you hear that, your feelings just change right out because you start realizing you're giving so much that people are so happy that they are better than receiving. So 5 months after this program at my school, I actually visited them in Poland. At a school in Poland, everyone was so independent and unique their own way. They don't even need people who are seeing to help them with what they are doing. And we actually did all things together, and after that, I visited their classes. One of the classes I visited was their science classes. I think all of you kind of know I'm a scientist. One of the things we did was visiting these classes, right? When I first walked into the class, the first thing I saw was emptiness. Emptiness. There's no scientific equipment whatsoever. Everything was done in 2D. In my mind, the first thing that came up was, how can someone who's visually impaired understand the fundamental concepts of a subject that needs visual concepts to be used? This question stuck with me for years after that. So, in 2014, I was once again fortunate to be an intern at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. As I was working at the Natural History Museum, I got to learn about the artifacts and also trying to do hands-on learning with the people there. With the hands-on learning experience, I actually got to meet someone who is pretty important to me and my ideas, my friend Amelia. On my first day working there at the Smithsonian, I actually got to see a room called T-Rex room. And in this T-Rex room, there were tear-like skeletons that were real. And there was this funny-looking machine that actually is scanning it like an iron. It's actually a 3D scanner. What it does is that it scans the bones and actually let it be print. So you will get the whole skeleton that's actually, a replica of the T-Rex skeleton. After our lunch talks, talking about different things, including her work, I started realizing the solution of 3D printing, how it can be used in so many ways, including helping the visually impaired. So, last year, I came up with a project called Solve. Solve is a 3D model combined with mobile application, which uses different senses of people who are blind, visually impaired per se, using noises, using tactile feelings, touching, and smelling, to teach them the fundamental concepts of science. This project actually got me to be representing Thailand last year in a forum in Norway, and actually attended one of the most prestigious awards in the world, Nobel Peace Prize. It was one of the most experiences that I cherish a lot. This whole thing was actually the result of hard working and also trying to be in other people's shoes, understanding their needs, and just not being judgmental. So now, I have a question for you. This picture was taken by me when I was in Hua Hin. There's so many questions I have, but actually there's one question I have is why? Why she deserve this? Why can't she have dreams like us? What were your childhood dreams? There must be so many things she dreamt about. Things like getting married, have a full-time job, having friends, living a normal life, and have dignity. Because she has the same rights as us. But you know what? These dreams are so far-fetched for people who actually are disabled in Thailand. Just them going outside on the streets, getting on public transportation. There's not even an escalator or an elevator that will help them to get up the stairs. How would they get anywhere? There are limited amount of jobs available out there for people who are disabled. Maybe it's because of reliability issues. One of the things that makes you see the stereotypical things you see out there that blind people or people with disabilities do is selling lotteries, doing massages, or actually ponder on the streets. Do you think they really deserve this? When in the United States of America and other developing countries, people actually accept people with disabilities to work in workplaces that are big giant companies out there without any prejudice. Don't even care if it's a reliability because they have talent. So with all this, with all things I'm trying to say, what does it that we can do to make things work for people with disabilities? First, we need to reduce the obstacle everywhere in our lives. Not just obstacles that are materials out here. Not even just buildings that are supposed to be accessible or public transportation that so needs to be accessible. But it's actually our hearts. We need to be able to open our hearts without prejudice, not just looking at anyone that just because they lost a limb or just because they can't see something, it doesn't mean they're capable of the same things we do. They might use other skills to help them survive and do things. After we open our hearts to accept these people, we need to open opportunities in terms of education. We need to include them in the job market. With this, we can actually allow them to become the contributing member of society. We can actually let them shine in their own way and them to help their communities. And with all that, we can have a very peaceful place to live together in an inclusive society. I actually have a 2 cents for people with disabilities who are listening out there and everyone out here too. One of my take-back messages is that there's no such thing as a disability because we're all differently abled. What do I mean by differently abled? Differently abled means that we can use other things to do the same things, even though it might not be the same way that we do. Not everyone has the same talents. Everyone is different and unique in our own way. So I have a message to people out there. One, if you have a disability, do not ever let your disability define who you are. It has never defined me. I never let my disability stop me from who I am today, my success, or anything like that. And also, try to defend yourself. Try to fight for yourself because nobody can fight your own battles for you. And lastly, the most important thing is that always remember all those who support you, who loves you, who cares about you. So I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to my friends, my family, my partner, and everyone out there who loves me, support me, and actually helping me out. But one last note, almost forgot. Do not ever think that something is a curse. This including my disability or anyone's disability. I know it's hard to actually think that way because in the past, I always said, why it must be me? Why can't I have a normal life like everyone else? Why can't I understand people? Why can people stop being angry with me? Because I don't understand them. But you know what? I started realizing after like 15 years later that without Asperger's, my life wouldn't be this great. I wouldn't have the friends I have today. I wouldn't have the things I do now. I wouldn't be standing here. Thank you guys.